Welcome back, everybody. This is Randy with Modern Randy, coming today with another Pioneer deck. Real quick though, as always, guys, if you like what I'm doing, you like what you're seeing, go ahead and give me a like, subscribe to the channel. That really helps me grow. As well as let me know what you guys are seeing in your RCQs. Let me know how you're doing. Right now, I am 0 for 2 in both my RCQs I've played in. Just had some bad matchups, not the best of luck, but hey, we're still out here, we're still grinding, and on top of that, we're bringing a deck that just seems to not be able to die. This is, of course, Mono Green Devotion. I'm sure a lot of you, like me, were super excited when this deck was essentially banned out of the format right before RC Atlanta. Excuse me, right before RC Atlanta last year. Karn, the Great Creator, was banned. 4-mana Karn basically allowed you to have a Wish sideboard and basically have a 75 main deck with no real drawbacks for the mono green deck, and obviously allowed the combo kills, things like that. And once that card got banned, this deck kind of faltered and really didn't do anything. People still tried to play it at the RC. It did have some success to it. I know Spider Spike was one of the big names that was playing the deck and was still on it. And obviously, it kind of just played big dumb creatures at that point and just kind of overloaded the board. And since not too many decks are playing board wipes in Pioneer, it did still do well because it was just like, it just put out a bunch of powers that, hey, you have to answer this or you die next turn. What are you doing? And most decks in Pioneer can't do that. So, but it has pretty much fallen away since RC Atlanta. No one's really been talking about it or innovating it. I'm sure there's like 6 discords that are yelling at me right now telling me about how they've been on the deck for years and been innovating this entire time. But this deck has started seeing more play and has started kind of coming back out into the limelight. Right now it has like a 5% meta share according to SGG Top 8. So I mean, take that as you will. But I thought I'd kind of go over the deck and kind of talk about what changes have happened with it and where it is now. So as it stands, the deck is still pretty much similar to how it was playing. We're still playing 21 lands. We still have, Double Boseiju, 4 Shrine of Nixos, or Nixos, Shrine of Nyx, and 2 Lair of the Hydra as our kind of like utility lands. We're playing the full 8 elves because obviously, we're playing mono green. We're trying to ramp. We're trying to do good things. We're playing 3 Oath of Nissas, allowing us to dig deeper, find the things we're looking for, along with 3 Wolfwell Havens, basically just a way to additionally mana ramp, things like that. And then we're still doing, 4 Old Growth Trolls, 4 Kiora, because it lets you untap your Shrine of Nyx and keep just going off, along with, where we play a creature of power 4 or greater, which everything is besides your Llanowar Elves, you get to draw a card as well. And then some of the new cards we've added here is the Outcast Trailblazer. So it is a 4/2 for 3 mana, and it can also plot for 2 and a green, so same as its casting costs. And then when it enters the battlefield, you get to add 1 mana of any color. And then whenever another creature of power 4 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. So it's basically Kira 5 through 8. So it is just kind of extra card draw to keep the deck going, keeping it keeps the cards flowing, still be able to do well, right? And then, of course, we also added Leyline of the Guild Pack. Turns out having, 4 Devotion on turn 1, or turn 0, essentially, is really good. The rest of this doesn't really matter so much as, like, your Shrine of Nyx gets to tap for mana, or green mana, so, like, that's kind of interesting. But outside of that, like, this is just a free spell, basically, you get to play in the deck. If it's on your opening hand, you get to start off with essentially 4 Devotion. So, you go turn 1 Llanowar Elves, turn 2 Shrine of Nyxos, you already have 6 mana. Kind of a huge boost for the deck. And then also, Obenwald Oddity is another card that's been added to the deck. Not new per se as printing, but new for the deck. It's a 2 green, 2 generic for a 4/4 with trample and haste. And it has a neat little ability to transform for 5 and 2 green. And really that's what we're playing it for, is a transform ability, because when you transform, still has trample, still has haste, but it now becomes an 8/8, and all your other creatures also get +1/+1, have trample and haste. Kind of like the end all be all, right? So if you're comboing off with this deck, you're going to be able to, dig through your deck with Storm the Festival, Cavalier Thorn, all that fun jazz, and being able to just hit Obenwald Oddity towards the end there, or towards even the middle when you still have a bunch of mana. Flip Obenwald, now all your Cavaliers, Old Growth Trolls, Outcast or Trailblazers, all these now become 5 or 6 power creatures on top of now also getting haste. I mean, even if you have 3/4 Llanowar Elves that now become 2/2s with haste, it is just something where you snap your fingers and now you are firmly in the driver's seat and killing your opponent on this turn instead of giving them a chance to have some kind of out to draw out to or something along those lines. And then of course we're still playing Cavalier Thorns. In case anybody doesn't know what this is, 5/6 reach, 3 green and 2 colorless, or generic. And then when it enters the battlefield, it gets to reveal the top 5 cards in your library, put a land card from among them onto the battlefield, and the rest in your graveyard. Excuse me. And then when it dies, you can exile. You can exile. If you do, you put another card from your graveyard on top of your library. So just a great card where it lets you kind of chain with these with trying to Nykthos, because it doesn't come into play tapped. So you can cast Cavalier if you have like 2 mana left over, or maybe you have 1 mana left over. The Kiora activation still available. You can, untap another land. You get to reveal top 5, choose the shrine, put it into play, sacrifice your tap shrine, untap a green source, activate shrine, keep going off, keep playing more spells, keep just generating a massive board presence, and theoretically win. And then we are, of course, still playing Storm the Festival because it's still a good card. 3 green, 3 generic. Sorcery, look at the top 5 cards in your library. Then you may put 2 permanent cards with mana value 5 or less from among them onto the battlefield, and the rest in the bottom in a random order. Also has flashback for 7 and 3 green, which is a lot of mana, but not a lot of mana for the deck that is just making literal 20-30 mana at a time. But like I said, this deck had been essentially killed off for the longest time. No one had really been playing it or innovating on it. I'm sure there was some people doing it, obviously, but this deck basically hasn't put up numbers or done anything until recently. And I think that the Outcast Trailblazer is probably one of the biggest reasons for that, is because it now gave it a second avenue to draw cards. You weren't just relying on Kiora, because like the easiest way to beat this deck once Karn got killed was you just would stop their card advantage, right? Or you would run them out of cards. Essentially, like you counter the Kiora, kill the Kiora, and then you can 1-for-1 trade with them a lot and still beat down through that process, because they didn't have Karn for all that amazing card advantage and value. And so then they kind of like were slowly just petering off because of that. And then Outcast Trailblazer has basically changed all that with it being able to, be another Kiora. It doesn't have the untap ability, but it doesn't matter. It still is drawing you cards and getting you through your deck, which is what the big problem with this deck is. It's a big problem with, mono green in general. It doesn't usually have card draw. And so that has really kind of pushed the deck back into the limelight. I'm not saying this is tier 1, tier 0, or anything crazy like that, but it is a deck that is on the upbound and still doing well. Notably, it's also doing well because control is at probably an all-time low in the last little bit. We don't really see control popping up so much. It's been on the downswing a lot, so not having all these board wipes and things that kind of answer these creatures is a big deal. But I do think that this deck is kind of coming up and back out, and I really hate that because I hated the mono green deck when Karn was around. I couldn't stand the deck. I wanted to see it banned forever. I was really excited when this deck got banned. But it is coming back, and it is definitely going to be something you're going to see in your RC queues, and it will definitely make a presence, I'm sure, at the RC in DC. And then for your sideboard here, you have 3 Pick Your Poison. We all know how good this card is. Being able to sacrifice artifacts, enchantments, creatures with flying, Vein Rubber, always good. Same thing with being able to hit Atraxa, which this deck kind of struggled with. Just, good value for this card, or good value for the deck. Makes sense. Sylvan Kyriad, I have to imagine, is in here for the removal heavy decks like Vampire and things. Being able to just stick a essentially be able to stick a devotion creature that also taps for mana seems amazing. That's what I'm guessing this card is in here for. I'm not 100% sure. I'm sure someone will correct me in the comments, and it's actually for insert matchup I never thought of. And then we have the Hydra here, just I have to imagine for any of the problematic creatures you might run into, things like that you need to answer with, because we're not running any removal spells. This is kind of a removal spell of choice, essentially, being able to fight creature you don't control. We have the Stonebrain here for the combo decks, of course, being able to hit Creativity, being able to hit Lotus Field, things like that, being able to hit Phoenix. It gets to answer anything you're worried about, essentially. We have Emrakul, the Promised End. I have to imagine for the mid-range kind of grinding matchups, like along with that Sylvan Kyriad, just get to go over the top of whatever your opponent's doing. You're already making a bunch of mana, so if you're trading 1-for-1 a lot, and you just get to land a 13/13 and take control of your opponent's next turn, you're probably going to be winning that game. Obviously, you can still lose, but you're definitely in a better standpoint than you would be if you didn't cast this card. Cityscape Leveler, again, just kind of for destroying those pesky permanents, or non-land permanents, I should say. Pesky non-land permanents that people are bringing in against you to kind of counteract what you're doing, being able to destroy the artifacts that people bring in all the time against Nyxos, things like that. Just being able to answer questions and being able to answer what your opponent's doing. Same thing with the Obstinate Baloth is here. I'm going to guess this is here probably for two reasons. One is definitely for the aggro decks that have been popping up, like the mono red, mono green, where they kind of just kill you before you can get set up as the mono green deck. And I have to imagine it's still just incidentally as good against the mono black discard deck, the Wayside deck. I don't know why I can't think of that. The Wayside deck, because it does say if a spell or ability your opponent controls causes you to discard it, put it into play instead of the graveyard. So, you know, Liliana uptick, I'm going to choose Obstinate Baloth. Oh, whoops, it's a 4/4 on the play, on the field. So, things like that. Obviously, that's not probably why it's here for. It's definitely here for the gain 4 life, just being able to mitigate against all the aggro decks that are kind of running around right this second. But deck is solid. Deck is putting up numbers. It's been putting up, you know, top 8s, things like that. So definitely a good deck to look out for. Something you might be interested in picking up if you already have the Shrines. The Nyx, this deck is basically dirt cheap. Well, that and Emrakul, the Promised End, is also pretty expensive. But this deck is definitely something to reckon with and something you're going to need to have a game plan for moving through the RCQ season as well as through the RC. I'm sure that we'll see this deck do some things that we weren't expecting it to do. As always, I am Randy. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe if you like what I'm doing, and I will catch you guys next time.